Hey, and welcome back. So today I was planning on just playing a bit around with Anthropic and get a feeling for this template system that they have on their console. And also I wanted to take Claude and see what I can do with it. So I've been using it in my professional life. I'm very happy with it and have the max subscription for it. But I wanted to just do a small toy project and see how that works out. But first, I want to investigate these templates that I just discovered on the console. And so what I was really hoping for is that these templates would be able to do some of the stuff that I want to do myself, like collecting project requirements and these kind of things that I've talked about in my other videos. And so let's try to dive into that and see what we can do. Okay, so here I have a template that I generated, and I don't recall exactly the steps I took. I think I pressed new prompt, and then somewhere around here there is a, right, generate prompt. That was the one I hit, right? And so I added here that, could you make a prompt for collecting project requirements? And so if you recall in one of my previous videos, what I did was I designed a prompt that would get the LLM to interrogate you on a specific project. And really what I would love to do here is to get these prompts for free. And so the question is, can we do that? You should get the assistant to ask the user about the project. Then, when done asking, it should produce a project requirements document. Okay, let's try to see what happens. Okay, so it generates some prompt here. There's a lot of text. Let's see what this actually looks like. Right. So begin by greeting the user and explaining the purpose, and ask the project name. Ask for the project name. Produce an overview of objectives, and okay, let's say we're going to make a terminal emulator. So we'll just call this terminal emulator. So the idea I have is I want to build a terminal emulator that allows me to emulate the terminal within the terminal. This is when you, for instance, are running NPM or you're running Claude, you see these little terminals popping up where it shows you, okay, now it's running cargo, now it's doing this, now it's doing that, which is basically emulating a terminal within a terminal. And so I wanted to just try to build that in Rust and see what it works like. So let's call the project that, and then just run the prompt and see what happens. What is the primary purpose of your terminal emulator project? What are the problems you're trying to solve and addressing? Wait, I cannot talk to this one. Okay. Okay. That's awkward. Add to come. Okay. I would have wanted this to provide me with a interface where I can talk right away. Like this doesn't work for me. Okay. Let's do this differently. We're going to copy this prompt. Is there a copy button? What? No, that allows me to attach stuff. Okay, we're just copying this manually, and then we're just doing this in set editor because the other thing there is nonsense. Terminal emulator. So let's see, it writes a bunch of stuff. What are the main objective and purposes of this terminal emulator? What are you trying to solve? Okay, so really what I'm trying to solve here is I want to have an interface in Rust that abstracts away the terminal by, okay, and so I need to think about how we formulate this, because we want to be able, let me just redo this. I want to be able to run a shell command from within Rust, then have an interface to emulate the terminal, and finally another interface to produce output. So for instance, I would like to be able to render a smaller terminal window within the terminal with the output of the command, or I would want to render the output in a UI. Okay, let's see what it makes out of that. Thank you. Wait, developers. Yes, it's for developers. Oh, this is a whole bunch of questions. Could you describe the specific functional requirements you'd like to include in this terminal? For example, what shell commands? What features should... It should be a full, I think that should be obvious, right? It should be a full terminal emulation, including potential user input output, as well as the ability to... So we want to be able to intercept commands. So if somebody's running a command, we want to be able to say, yes, you can run this command, or no, you can't run this command. Command execution, for instance, if someone is trying to run rm.rf, I want to be able to give a prompt to the user stating, do you want to execute this command before it is executed? That, I think this makes sense. Okay, I see. That's helpful information. You're looking for small terminal emulation and interactive and safety features. Like regarding the display interface, you mentioned earlier that you could provide a little more detail. Smaller terminal window within the terminal. What specific capabilities should this have for the UI? What kind of UI framework? Okay, so for this project, we will only do terminal within terminal. However, in the future, we might want to do a Tari application that provides the interaction layer. Right, and so for this project, we want to capture the input and output of the terminal, redirect it to our emulation, capture the output of the emulation and print it in a virtual window using cursors or something like that. Okay. I think that should make sense. Let's see. We are now focusing on the terminal within terminal functionality using something like cursors. What potential future expansion to the Tauri UI? Wait, what? It's a lot of text. For now, we're focusing on using with potential. Yeah, okay. For the non-functional requirements, for example, performance expectations, compatibility, operating system. Yeah, okay. It needs to work on all Nix platforms. It should be performant. And it should be secure and reliable. Like, really, I don't really understand the question here. So I'm sure the assistant will ask me if I'm not answering. Are there any specific technical constraints for this project? For instance, we use Rust and Rust only. Use the best standard, use best practices, implement. So one of the things that I'm really big on with LLMs and with AI coding in general is we want to do a test-driven approach where we do tests first and code implementation afterwards. So we're going to ask it to do this because I think this is one of the places where LLMs really have a potential of impacting large projects. So let's try to do this. Implementation must be done using a test-driven approach. What are there any specific milestones or deadline you want to meet? Yes, I need it today. Like actually, I need it in 20 minutes. This video should not be that long. Budget $0. I am not going to spend any money on this. Like the whole point of AI is I don't want to do anything and I want to get all the benefits and I don't want to spend any money. What do you see as a potential risk or challenges of this project, especially given the time? I think the potential risks are that we will use AI to implement it. It will not be thorough enough. I think that this is a valid concern. It agrees with me. It's a valid concern. Yeah, exactly. So it understands the issue here. This is great. Finally, what would success look like for the project? Okay, so I want to be able to run cargo run dash shell, some shell command with flags and see that emulated in a smaller window. within the terminal. Okay, so we got the project requirements. This is pretty cool. Let's just make a let's see. Okay, this is actually, is it? I actually think this is kind of weak. It's not as strong as I would have hoped for. But okay, let's just roll with it. Let's see what happens when Claude Code gets this. So I'm launching Claude here. Yes, proceed. Could you read prd.md and go ahead and do the full implementation? Make sure to use a test-driven approach for this. So it's wiping and noodling and all sorts of other things. No idea what those words mean, but it sounds very fishy, or at least not very reliable. So let's see what happens. Okay, so it made a nice list of things that it wants to do, and update to do. Set up the project. Nice. Write test for the shell. Okay, so it actually has a implement shell command ptu. Oh, right, now it's asking all these questions. Yes, just do this. I completely do not trust anything, but let's see. Okay, let's try to just have a look at what's happening in the files view over here. So we have files, we have a cargo.toml, and it's now starting to create stuff, and it has, right. And so we have some permissions in here. We have gitignore, cargo.toml. Are we stuck somewhere? Yeah, we're stuck. So we see it's added all of the things that we would expect to be there. There are a few things that Ratchet UI. I'm curious. I think this will probably be a UI for the terminal, but let's just have a look at that. Oh yeah, that's a terminal UI. Nice. See, so it should have implemented all the tests now. Question is, what does that look like? Or it's implemented more than the tests. It's implemented all sorts of stuff here. Now, I'm very curious whether this will end up doing a... Yeah, I think it's missed one of the main things that I actually wanted in this. I want to have a nice interface so that I can replace whatever UI we're using right now. I want to replace that tomorrow with something else. So I completely missed that point. It's just implementing a bunch of structs, and what it really should have done was made an analysis of these are the key things that would happen. So if you recall the calculator example we did, it actually did a pretty nice job at understanding the task and then writing out the specific specs for how we wanted to do things. I feel like this prompt didn't really do that for me. I feel slightly... Oh wait, and then no, this is a cross-term backend, so that's... And terminal, okay, so maybe it did do something like that anyway. Where's terminal defined? Terminal UI. Okay, so that's from, okay. Philosophizing. Yeah, I feel definitely room for improvement. Enable raw mode. And this is a struct. Does it use any traits at all? Okay, so it does some stuff here. Intercept. Yeah, this is good though. This is what we wanted. But again, so the whole point here would be that we want to abstract it away. We want to start out building our prototype in the UI or in the terminal, and then eventually evolve that into a much better UI. So it feels like it's kind of missing the point here. But I guess this is a good starting point, and we can ask it to update this later on. Yeah, just run cargo test. Okay, so what do we have here? We have a command parser which parses individual commands and then some tests around that. Right, and so actually, what we are trying to implement is something very similar to what you have here. So right here, you see this small window within the terminal that's actually running a command and keeping track of what's happening there. Yes, go for it. Right, let's see. Yeah, okay, so we're triggering the protection in Claude because this command has rm-rf in it, and obviously Claude is not very happy with that because it is kind of dangerous. And actually, I'm a little bit hesitant running this. Like, I'm putting a lot of trust into the LLM here. Maybe I don't want to run this. I think let's not risk it. Could you something less risky? Yeah, that sounds good. If that runs, I think I'll be fine. Actually, let's just remove the RF as well. Okay, so the idea here is if there would be anything in the program that accidentally broke the path and ended up attacking our root, like I know that macOS is supposed to have all sorts of guards to prevent this, but really I just don't want to risk it. It should be able to test this without doing something as risky as that. Okay, let's just do it. Like maybe this work. But right. Oh, nice. Okay. So it claims to be finished. Let's see what happens if we do cargo run. Holy crap, this is not working. Okay, so we see that it's actually implemented quite a lot of stuff here. And as I mentioned earlier, it does seem to miss the point of making interfaces, but maybe we can get that corrected as an afterthought. Let's see. Quite curious about that. Yes, go ahead. Actually, I wonder how do I exit this one? Ah, Control C or Control Q. And I can do up down for commands. Is that a fact? No, that is not true. I cannot do Control C and Control Q works, and I can type commands, but they don't execute. Okay, and so executing this, let's try to how do I formulate this in a way that it will understand what I mean, right? So basically what I want is we want a stream of things that are happening in the program we're executing, and we want that formatted correctly in a smaller window. Implement traits for the terminal that allows you to interpret the program output and format it correctly in a smaller window. For instance, imagine that you would need to print everything in a 200, let's just do 20 by 20 square on the screen. Free. What else? What else do we want here? Make sure to update the project requirements to reflect that we must be tests first and traits first. That we must implement tests and traits first, and that implementation should follow after that. I feel a slight regret that I didn't make more coffee before jumping into this live stream, because I desperately want some coffee right now. No, I think I'll go and grab a coffee while this is finishing because it's taking a bit longer than I'd hoped for. I see. We're not done yet. But let's check out the update. Okay, so the code is just increasing in magnitude. So now it has implemented a virtual terminal. That's great. That's actually what we wanted to have. So we wanted to have this emulation of a terminal where we can then reprint that somewhere else, whether that is inside terminal or whether that is inside some other place. So this is closer to what we actually wanted to have in the first place. And yeah, I'm a little bit surprised that it chooses to do this. Like why doesn't it just choose to use something like the VT100 library? Or yeah, because that would at least be more complete. But okay, let's roll with it and say that, right, okay, so it has a render thing that will render this into a window. Okay. And it actually doesn't look too bad. Right, and now it implements anti-parser. Where do we have that one? Where is that defined? Anti-parser, that's in terminal emulation. Nice, so it also keeps some track of colors and it has a virtual screen. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. This is what I wanted, right? Well, I want to have the virtual screen where we can implement a custom renderer and right, okay, this is great. This starts to look like something in the direction that I wanted. Getting back here. What does it want to run here? That's probably okay. Just go ahead and do that. And we have another command. What did I actually just approve? Oh crap, I might just end. Oh, right, so it's deleting something. Yeah, okay. That will probably be fine. But I probably ought to read what I'm approving before approving it. Okay, cool. Now it's suggesting that something should be working. Let's try this out. Nice. Well, you look at that. Let's try to do a ls. All right, let's go. So we have a small terminal window inside of the terminal where we can show stuff and render it. This is so cool. Like clearly it's not doing the full emulation, but we are definitely getting somewhere here. I'm so happy with this. This is really, really cool. And we can even decide the size of the window. Nice. Okay, now so we know that it already has some color support because we saw that there is a struct or an enum for doing colors, but we just wanted to make sure that it's doing this completely right. That you could possibly envision, including colors and keyboard input, output. So the bar for whether we have succeeded here or not would be if we could run Emacs inside of a thing here and have inside one of these small windows and have it running 100% correctly, then that would be the absolute that would be absolutely amazing. So, but let's start out by getting it just to support all the commands. Nice. And you'll see how it remembers that it needs to follow these TDD principles. So tests first, which I think is super great. This is exactly what we want. And it again makes a very nice list of things that it has to do. And then it goes ahead and it just does it. So super cool. It's pretty good at working its way through these to-dos. Really like that. It feels productive. Maybe it isn't. Maybe this is going to be a non-great solution in the long run, but let's see. We have a Okay, so it seems that it's now implementing the simple UI, which may or may not have been there before, but at least I didn't notice it before. Terminal emulator output. Okay, execute. Yada yada. Q up down to scroll. Curious if this is. So I think rather than Emacs, actually the bar for whether we are successful or not here is we want to run a bash or CSH within the whole thing. Like if we can do that, it feels like we are sort of done because we're running a terminal within a terminal. And I think that would be the bar for will we actually done here. Yeah, this is one of the things that typically happens with these agents. They create all sorts of weird artifacts. Like it's created this test UI as an SH script. I'm really not a big fan of that. But we can delete that afterwards. But it feels like they ought to have a cleanup function that basically tidies things up once you're done doing things. Right, so how does this work? So it's trying to run this inside and then it's trying to execute Q to quit. Yeah, that must be what it's doing here. Interesting. Okay, does it have key and CRS? Okay, so it claims that it's done a lot of stuff. Could you give me some examples on how this can be used? Oh man, not a comprehensive example. I just want a few examples to test that it's working the way that I expected. So let's see what happens if we run the old thing. Yeah, okay, that still works. But come on, this is far too complex. Okay, and the tests don't work. So I think there's still quite a lot of work to be done here. And for something that's supposed to be a test first approach, I'm a little bit surprised that there are things that doesn't work. Like I would have expected it to run this command and actually do quality assurance, right? But it doesn't. And so this also goes to show one of the issues that you're having with these agent systems. Like they produce a lot of code, but they are not very careful. They do not do the checking. They just go ahead and implement a ton of code. And probably we are also in a situation like there's so much code here. I would find it very hard to believe that we do not need to delete at least some of it. Right, okay. This is actually not what I wanted. I just wanted it to give me a few command lines that I could run. And instead, it's starting to write out all of these examples. Definitely not what I dreamt of. I wanted to, okay. This is another issue with current LLMs. Like, it would be great that when you give them a prompt, that they actually make sure they understand what you want before they go ahead and just typing away code. Like, this is very, very similar to what you want from any developer. If you hand a task to somebody and they just go away and they code, then what they will end up doing is almost 100% certain to be the wrong thing if they don't spend time trying to understand what is it that we're trying to do here. And this is exactly what the LLM is doing right now, right? It's just going ahead. I asked it to give me some examples. What I wanted was a command line command that I could run and just test that it's working. And instead, it's gone ahead and it's just implemented a ton of examples. It seems like. Let's see if that's true. Yeah, we have 4 or 5 examples here, which I think is, I mean, it's great from a understanding how to use this perspective, but it's just not what I wanted. So. Okay, but on the bright side, it does seem like it's fixing some of the tests that weren't or some of the examples that weren't working before. So maybe I can forgive it. And I think with the amount of examples that are here, okay. It's funny with these fluffy words you have here, because that's exactly what it feels like. It feels like it's all a little bit fluffy. Like, there's clearly something here that could work great, but there's also a lot of things where you're thinking, okay, this feels like it's overdoing it and that it's not careful enough in what it's supposed to do. So the question really is, how do we fix this? How do we make it such that we are more accurate every time we get a LLM to do stuff for us, or an agent to do stuff for us? Okay, cool. The tests are running now. And let's see. Echo test. This is actually lovely. So I wonder if we can just run now. No, that still doesn't work. Okay. Anyway, let's try to run one of the examples. Just check what examples it's cooked up for us. Wait, what? Can you just do basic? I thought you always had to declare those ones. Oh, you don't. Okay, cool. So that does something. Let's try to run this progress bar, see what happens. Nice. So let's just run. Nice. And so you see that it's nicely rendering. Okay, this is cool. Okay, so just to make sure that everybody understands what's going on here. It is supposed to print out multiple progress bars. So what it does is we have a terminal program that's generating a progress bar. Okay, I'm adding a disclaimer first. I haven't looked at the code. Maybe it's doing something completely different. But in theory, what it's supposed to do is you have something in the terminal that's producing a progress bar. And so it's rendering this in our virtual terminal and then printing out snapshots at what it looks like at the different steps. And so the question is it actually doing this or is it not doing this? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. We would need to look at the code in more detail. But like, this is super cool. There seems to be some rendering error here, but maybe that's okay. Okay, let's see what other examples does it have for us. Text editor, let's try that. That sounds fun. Okay, that clearly did not work as we wanted it to. Okay, but I think we've gotten a really long way here. So, like, in a very short time, we have created something that kind of resembles what I want. So I wanted this thing where I can emulate a terminal inside the terminal. So when I'm having a Rust program, I want to be able to run programs and then make a little window showing this is what's running inside of the program. And it kind of does that. There's definitely more work to be done here, and we could probably ask it to do more things. But I think we're in a really good place. Like from the things we have done, I think we've gotten pretty far in. I don't know how long we've been doing this. An hour, maybe. And certainly, it's done a lot of the stuff that I would also do, but it's just done it a lot faster, right? And so it feels like we've gotten 80% of the way in 20% of the time. And now there's a ton of cleanup to do, and there is a bunch of other things. So probably what I would try to do at this point would be to commit these things to Git and then ask it to clean it up and simplify it and make it better. And also make a document with the architecture, because honestly, there's so much code here that I don't feel like starting out by reading the code. I would like to just have an overview of what has it done here. And probably the way we should have done this would be the other way around, right? We start out with the project requirements, then ask it to design a architecture document. Then once we have the architecture document, then start implementing things. Well, actually breaking it down into tasks, breaking it down into user stories, and then start implementing it. That would probably be the preferred way. And then we've encountered a couple of problems, like it should be asking us, what do you mean when you do something? Don't get me wrong, the examples that it's made here are great. It's just not what I wanted. It's not what I had in mind when I asked it for examples. Same for tests. Like, it's a little bit incomprehensible that you ask it to do a test-driven approach and still there are tests failing once it's done doing whatever it's supposed to do. It should just have a quality checking step, right? And that's what you would expect. But I think we can probably fix some of this, and by just making sure that the requirements for how we should be operating are clear. And so I think this is some of the stuff we should explore in some of the next videos. I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, remember to subscribe.